or it might be a coffee song. Just everyone sing along. Go and take a pee. This is the smoke break song. Lunch lady's smoke break song. She doesn't write them to be alone. That's just the way it's gonna be. So what are y'all into? Hey Richie, have you drank a few? I drank a few too, back in '93. This is a Pete dance song. Everybody better be getting on. Sit on the pot and pee, even if you have a wee. This is the beefcake song. He needs coffee for his drive to be gone from the house so he can make some money. This is an Aussie song. Everyone just sing along. We'll sing hey true blue and green with the cooey. This is a British song. It's a quite proper song. We will all go mad unless you sing along. Okay, that's long enough for our professional smoker. Come back to your chat, great host Lee. Hot box that cigarette. Your song is over yet? My words I'm starting to forget because we don't ever sleep. Hit the like chicken, LL Cool Mom out. I'll be one ticking, LL Cool Mom out. Everyone just sing along. We'll sing hey true blue and green with the cooey. This is a British song. It's a quite proper song. We will all go mad unless you sing along. Okay, that's long enough for our professional smoker. Come back to your chat, great host leading. Hot box that cigarette. Your song is over yet? My words I'm starting to forget because we don't ever sleep. Hit the like chicken, LL Cool Mom out. Hope you want chicken, LL Cool Mom out. How? Hotbox. Let's
Hello, ladies. I hope you can hear me okay. As usual, I'm a little bit late. But you know what I decided to do at the last minute? Was get some pictures to show you. Just in case. I know you have, Pink. You've read the book you said, didn't you? So you know the score with them all, and you'll know them all too, Liz. But I think our lunch lady's coming in, so she won't know. So should we give it a couple of minutes to see if she gets in? She's got to go. So I think she said she's going to the chiropractor. I think that's it. I'll use ladies anyway. I've not long had my tea, you know. Just made a cup of Alex only this second, just come in from work. Can you believe it? Been working since 8 o'clock this morning. He's just got in. So he's had just thrown his tea down him. And now we're having a cuppa. So I've just said to him, best you get your headphones on. Because otherwise you're going to be listening to the Madeline McCann story. So I'm just fixing these in my ears to fit properly to my head in and go. You know what? I've got a cheap pair of rice and they fit in great. But the good ones are crap. They don't fit in. I'll be thinking after I can't hear a thing. Even though I'm not listening to anything anyway, but you get what I mean. But I've got them in. So is the mic okay? Hiya, Army Vest. Are you okay, love? Have you got your cup of coffee? It's mind you, it's a bit late now, isn't it for you? I normally catch you in my morning. Hiya, Ann. You okay, love? Oh, what are you up to? What time is it where you are, Ann? And you, Army Vest? What time is it? It's 8, just after 8 p.m. here where I am. I'm continuing the story, Army Vest, of little Madeline McCann who went missing and on holiday with her parents in Portugal. I think it's 17 years ago now. It's so sad. But there's been lots of speculation and crap going around, and oh, brilliant, perfect audio made up. That's good. I've got my coffee. It's 2 p.m. Just left Anytime Fitness. Do you know what? I feel like I've been to Anytime Fitness with you. My back's killing. Honestly, right across my back is killing me. And I don't know what I've done. Every time I move a certain way, horrible. Getting old, army vet. That's what it is. I'm getting old now. Gonna be a granny next year. Ooh. So I know you didn't stay around to listen, army vet. I get that because the fellas don't want to listen, do they? I mean, a lot of women don't. People want to go on the channels, don't they, and have a laugh. Who wants to sit and listen to me? But you know what? I was only supposed to be on for an hour last night. I ended up, was it over 2 hours? I can't remember. I think it was over two. I think I went on at 7:45 and I finished at 10:15. I was dead dry all the time. I've got me coffee ready here. What are you congratulating me for, Army? Tell me. Are you Tails? Are you alright, chicken? Thanks for coming in. What are you congratulating me for, Army vet? Oh, thanks, Pink. Thanks. Do you know what though? I'd love to hear someone telling the story, when I go to bed. Because I always listen to true crime when I'm going to bed, always, and I always fall asleep. But doesn't it do your head in when you're getting the adverts coming through and you've got to keep pressing skip, skip, skip all the time? If only we could just listen without the adverts. But it costs a lot of money, doesn't it? To pay to avoid the adverts. Me a granny. No, I'm not going to be a granny, as in literally a granny. I'm just going to be a granny. I'm going to be old. I gave up waiting to be an Annie. I gave up. My Bessie's too busy playing games. No, Lizzo. I'm just saying I'm getting old. That's what I meant. Be going round that I'm going to be a granny. Yes, me too. I love audiobooks. Have you had audiobooks? Because I listened to a free one. Well, when I listened to 5 minutes and I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear a drone on voice. So can you put me in the right direction where I can get some good audiobooks? I like all the love stories. I was a sucker for Mills and Boons. Do you remember them, Lizzo, the Mills and Boons? The doctors and the nurses falling in love and that. Oh, I loved it. You knew what was going to happen, but you couldn't help yourself. I'm a romantic, terrible romantic. Just having a swig of coffee. And then what I'm going to do is I'll show you the picture, eh? Oh, do you? Tell me where you got it from, Pink, and what type of books you like to read. Oh, I love Daniel Steele as well. Do you ever remember, Lizzo, reading Flowers in the Attic? Oh my God, how sad was that? And then there was Flowers in the Attic, um, Petals in the Wind, and there was another one I can't remember. Oh, saddest things I've ever read in my life. And the racy books, do you remember? Least now? No, I don't remember them, Lizzo. I haven't got a clue. Oh, I'd love them audio books though. They're perfect to go to sleep to. Can you get crime? Choose your own and loads are free from the Plus catalogue too. What do you mean? Oh, Pink. You're gonna have to message me. You got Messenger? Yeah, Flowers in the Attic was a great book, wasn't it? Loved it. Virginia Andrews wrote them. Oh, I know Virginia Andrews, and I love all the what was her name? She was Andrews, something Andrews. She did Lime Street at 2 and stuff like that about the olden days in Liverpool. Oh, it was brilliant. Loved it. You can get everything Amazon Audible. I'm sure that's where I got that free book. But she was like a robot. She was just like a robot. There was no feeling in her voice. I thought, oh, I won't lose my breath or nothing with you when you're falling in love with whoever you're telling me about. So I never bothered again. Anyway, I'm going to show you some pictures now for anyone who's not familiar with the McCanns. And yeah, just give us a minute then. Catherine Cookson. Oh yeah, Lizzo. Love Catherine. Let me get some pictures on the go. Hang on. So this is mind you, always will upload them all now. Hold on. Um, just waiting for them to upload now, and then I can show you some. So this is Jerry and Kate McCann, which is Madeline's mum and dad. That's them when they were getting. It's like a documentary they were on a few years after it happened. This is the rat who's being accused of murdering her. He's from, is it Germany? And he's a pedo. So it says Bruckner is expected of abducting and murdering Madeline McCann. So they've obviously got evidence. Here she is, the little one. Here she is, isn't she gorgeous? Now, if you look at her eyes, she has a distinctive, that's what they said. You'd know it if you seen her, because what's the black, oh, what's it called? The pupil in your eye. It's like smudges, it comes down. You'll see it now, I'll show you it on this picture. So if you just zoom in, you'll see, as you're looking at the picture, the left eye. And that's what they kept saying, to keep your eyes out and look for this little one, because she's got that. And then here's the apartments that she went missing from. Right there, see the bushes there? The one above the bushes. Yeah, that's it. It's so sad. Well, they were just over the road having something to eat when it happened. Oh, God. Right, let me get that off. So, just for anyone, um, those were the days when my eyes could still read, can't anymore. I buy the cheap glasses and, the little readers. I buy them and I'll say, oh, you're going to ruin your eyesight. So we went to the opticians, he tested my eyes, and then I told him that I only used the cheap readers 2.5. So he took them off and he put them on. He went, they're exactly the ones I would have prescribed for you anyway. Don't waste your money on going paying out there for good glasses. Just do what you do. As long as you're using the right strength for your eyes, you're not going to do any damage. I'm sorry I never took a bet on with Alex. I know, bless her little heart. Said, so sad. Yeah, pupil thing. All these things come out of my head. I can't think of words or nothing. Okay, so has everyone got a cup? Everyone ready? Let's dive in, because we're on the holiday part now where it all went wrong. So, do you just want to go and get a cuppa, or is it alright for me to proceed? Please let me know. Did you get your sauces, lunch lady? You're all done. Okay, just having a swig, pink. Okay, nice. Let me get my page. So I can't see the chat now. If anyone comes in, I'm not being rude and ignoring. Obviously, I'm reading. So let me put that there, and then we can go on. On Saturday, the 28th of April, 2007, Fiona, David, Diane, and the girls arrived at our house before 7 a.m. The others, who were based down south, were flying separately from Gatwick. As soon as the kids wiped the sleep from their eyes, they were giddy with excitement. In the people carrier we pre-booked to take us to East Midlands Airport, the chatter and laughter escalated, and by this stage, even I was feeling quite up for it. We all had breakfast together at the airport, everyone in high spirits. Boarding the aircraft, Madeline, in a princess trolley bag, gripped tightly in one hand, perhaps over-ambitiously, took hold of Lily's hand with the other, and tripped, clattered in gear shin on the sharp front edge of one of the metal steps. Even that wasn't enough to spoil her holiday mood. She handled it so bravely, letting out only a momentary whimper in spite of the large bruise that almost appeared immediately. The flight was otherwise unremarkable, with each other for company. The children were easily entertained. At the risk of sounding totally biased, I must say that Madeline behaved perfectly. Her sore leg forgotten, she spent the flight chatting away happily, reading and colouring, as she spent many previous journeys. We found the people carrier plus driver we pre-booked to meet us at Faro Airport, and arrived at the Ocean Club Resort in the village of Pradelu around 3. After checking in, we were driven over to our accommodation in a minibus by a corner. Guys, I don't know what happened there. I just seen my phone on the side of my eye going black. Oh God, don't know what's happening there. No clue. What? Yeah, I'm on 57%. I'm just going to plug this in. Just going to plug a charger in case, but it's on 57%. Okay, guys, where was I up to? Because I don't know how far you heard. Sound good now. Okay. I'll have to keep it in front of me in case it does it again. Can anyone tell me where I was up to? Right, Lou. Okay. After checking in, we were driven over to our accommodation in a minibus by a Mark Warner rep. Our apartments were in a five-story block accessed from the front by a road, Rua de Agostinho da Silva. There was a car park outside, and at the rear a veranda overlooked a garden pool area and tennis courts. All of us except David, Fiona and Diane, who were on the first floor, had ground floor flats. Matt and Rachel were next door to us in 5B, and Jane and Russell in 5D. Ours, 5A, was on the corner of the block. It was lovely, much nicer and larger, in fact, than we had expected, and well equipped. Though I envied David and Fiona for their sea view, being on the ground floor meant we didn't have to worry about the children's safety on a balcony. Now, I just said there I didn't know they were on the ground. I've only just realised that now reading this. Later, we were told by the British police that the ground floor location, access to roads front and side, secluded entrance, and partial tree cover made our apartment a prime target for burglars and other criminals. Never did this once occur to us when we arrived. As far as we were concerned, we were in a safe family orientated holiday resort. From the front door of the apartment, there was a kitchen. To the left with a hallway leading into a sitting room at the back. On the right-hand side were two bedrooms, separated by a bathroom. The sitting room area was furnished with two blue sofas, a coffee table, TV, a dining table and chairs. Glass sliding patio doors gave out to a veranda with a flight of steps down to a little gate at the side of the building. At the top of the stairs, there was a child safety gate. After the first couple of days, we were barely used to the front door coming in. Oh, sorry. After the first couple of days, we barely used the front door coming and going through the patio doors and up and down the steps. The travel cots were requested for Sean and oh God, here we go with this name again. Amelie. Um, Someone sent me how to pronounce the name, and it's Amelie. So the Sean and Amelie had been placed in the back bedroom. As there were full length patio doors here too, and it was bigger and brighter, we decided to put the three children in the front bedroom, knowing they'd only be using their room to sleep in, and to take this one ourselves. We removed the cots and shoved the twin beds together. In the other room, we pushed the beds further apart, positioning each against the wall to make room for the two cots, which we placed in between them. After reorganising the sleeping arrangements and unpacking some essentials, we went down to the pool area at the back of the apartment to join the rest of the holiday group. Jane, Russell, Rachel, and Matt and their kids had arrived a few hours ahead of us. At the back of the apartment, we're separated from an access path that ran the length of the block by a low wall, into which gates to the ground floor flats were set. The pool area on the other side of the path was also walled, so to reach it, you went out to the road to your left, Rua de Dr. Francisco Gentle Martins, oh my God, turned right and came back in by an entrance a few yards along. As we were on the corner of the block, our gate led directly onto Rua Dr. Gentil Martins. The weather was pleasant. There was a cool breeze. It was still April after all, as I am one of those people who really feel the cold. Get a bit of meat on yourself, my hearty Scottish in-laws are always telling me. When Madeline immediately wanted me to go swimming with her, I was not exactly keen, but she was so excited about the pool. I took one look at her eager little face and went off to put on my swimming costume. The water was absolutely freezing, but Madeline was straight in there, even if her voice disappeared for a second or two with the shock of it. Come on, mummy, she called. Then she got her breath back and I tentatively inched my way in. The things you do for your kids. I remember commenting to her dad lying on a sun lounger with his two sons nearby watching us. I told Madeline to count to three and steeled myself it was worth it. It will always be worth it just to see her delight, even if it did take us both the best part of 3 hours to warm up afterwards. We were still shivering when we went off to a welcome meeting with the Mark Warner team, who outlined the facilities and events on offer. We booked the children into the kids' club. Started the next day. These provided a wide range of activities, both indoor and outdoor, that varied from day to day. Swimming at the indoor pool, ice cream trips, boat rides at the beach, sandcastle building, games like mini tennis, and the usual arts and crafts, singing and stories. Afterwards, we strolled over to the Millennium Restaurant for dinner. The Mark Warner resorts the others had visited before have been quite compact. The apartments and facilities in Friday Live were spread out around the village, which meant some of them were 10 minutes walk away. The restaurant turns out to be nearly half a mile from our base, a bit too far really, certainly for the gaggly and weary toddlers. As we were only going to be away for a week, we decided not to bring Sean and Amelie's double buggy with us, preferring to travel light and thinking we wouldn't be doing much walking, given that everything we needed was on site. There were so many stops and negotiations about whose turn it was to be carried by who. At the restaurant, the staff were very kind and obliging, pushing up several tables so that we could all sit together. Once we'd eaten everything, everyone was feeling pretty tired, and by the time we got back to the apartment, the children's nighttime routine, bath, pyjamas, milk, stories, and bed, was an hour behind the normal schedule. Madeline was very taken with the novelty of sharing a room with Sean and Amali. At home, she had her own, and it was nice to have them all together. She had the bed nearest the door, leaving the one by the window empty. On our arrival, we had lowered the blind-style shutters on the outside of the windows, which were controlled from the inside, and closed the curtains. We left them that way all week. This early in the season, the nights were not that warm. There was no need to open a window, and we reasoned that having the shutters down and the curtains drawn, that would keep us cool during the day. Although it meant the room was very dark, the children weren't going to be in there in the daytime, and that night we would always left the door ajar to let in a little light. With Madeline and the twins settled, Jerry and I chatted and read for a while before going to sleep ourselves. The holiday had got off to a good start, and we felt mellow and content. Everyone had a good night's sleep, and the next morning, Sunday, 29th of April, we woke up bright and early and feeling refreshed. After a quick wash, we returned to the Millennium Restaurant, where we joined our friends for breakfast, and then took the kids to the kids club while our three were having fun elsewhere with the buddies. There would be a rare chance for Jerry and me to spend time together and play tennis, going for a run, or just relaxing. It seemed to us an ideal way for everyone to get the most out of this holiday. We wanted to balance the activities with enjoying our break as a family, and we made it clear to Madeline that she didn't have to go to the club if she didn't feel like it. We wouldn't have minded if she wanted to stay with us. We loved her company, but she was far less concerned about being apart from Jerry and me than the other way round. The main thing was that everyone was happy. Sean and Amelie were enrolled in Toddler Club for 2-year-olds in a building adjacent to a bar and the open air tapas restaurant just across from our apartment, on the other side of the main pool. The nanny who was to take care of them seemed very pleasant and capable. Amelie, true to form, was completely unfazed. Sensitive Sean, when it came to it, was initially a bit upset, all of which was situation normal with the twins. The staff had our telephone numbers and we left details of our whereabouts as we would do for the rest of the week in case there were any problems or in the unlikely event that Sean failed to settle. Madeline's group, the mini club for 3 to 5s, was based in a light airy room above the 24-hour reception. This was slightly further away, as it was a few mornings before we got our bearings and found a quicker route there. Ella went too, and although until the previous day the two girls hadn't seen each other for several months, they soon became great pals. Madeline's nanny, Cat, I warned to straight away, as did Madeline. She was bubbly, smiley, kind, and bursting with enthusiasm. It was obvious that she was doing the job because she loved children, not simply as a way of spending a few months in the sun. After dropping off the children, we went along to a tennis coffee morning. Neither of us is a regular tennis player, but before we'd had the kids, we spent many holidays knocking a few balls around. Perhaps that's a bit of a casual way of putting it. We're both pretty competitive, so there have been some fierce matches over the years. Thankfully, all ending amicably with a hug over the net and a post-match beer. So we were keen to get in some tennis on the break and maybe improve our technique a little. We played a few games and signed up for group lessons for the rest of the week. Me, a level 1, and Jerry, level 2. I must grudgingly concede that he is better than I am. Soon after midday, we collected the children. I love going to pick up the kids when they were little. The moment when the child spots you and rushes over to you to throw a pair of tiny arms around you makes your heart sing. It doesn't happen every time, of course, but I have many special memories of meeting Madeline at nursery, at home, hurtling across the classroom, and in my embrace she would shout, "My mummy," as if establishing ownership of me in front of other children. What I'd give to have that again. Jerry had made a trip to Baptista, a supermarket a short distance from the Ocean Club, to get in a few bits and pieces for lunch, plus some cereal to save us making the trek to the Millennium restaurant for breakfast each morning. We all had lunch on the balcony of the apartment. Fee and Dave were sharing with Diane. Today we'd be able to make a dinner reservation for the adult contingent on the poolside tapas restaurant, sorry. Apparently, this restaurant, a canopied outdoor addition to the bar, caters for only up to 15 diners in the evenings, and reservations could not be made until the morning of the day in question. Being so close, it was far more convenient than the Millennium. The children could have their tea together early, play for a while, and then go to bed at their usual time, which meant they would get overtired and out of sorts, and we could eat later on. In the afternoon, the children went back to their clubs, and after a leisurely hour by the pool with Fiona, David, and Diane, Jerry and I took a run along the beach. Being able to play tennis and run together for the first time in ages was a real treat. Just before 5 p.m., the arrangement was that the nannies would bring all the children to a raised area next to the tapas restaurant to meet their parents and have their high tea, as they called it. Madeline's mini club arrived, walking in a single file, clutching Sammy Snake, a long rope with coloured rings fastened to it at regular intervals for the children to hold on to. Very cute. The nearby play area had several small slides and a little playhouse, which our team of kids adored, and after tea we all spent half an hour or so there. We headed back to our apartments, the kids all tired but happy after their busy day. At home, the twins were usually asleep soon after 7, while Madeline enjoyed the big sister privilege of an extra half an hour with Jerry and me. Sean and Amali had always been perfect sleepers, and Madeline had outgrown the restlessness of her babyhood, so barring illness and the odd instance of playing up at bedtime, ours was normally a relatively quiet household by 8 p.m. If Madeline ever woke during the night, it was always in the small hours, practically never earlier than 2 or 3 in the morning. In Portugal, the only difference was all the 3 children went down around 7:15. None of them had been taking daytime naps for quite a few months before the holiday, and after the activities and excitement of each day, they were all ready for their beds by then. Familiar with their bedtime ritual, they accepted it as a prelude to sleep, and after milk and stories, settled very quickly. It's a time-honoured routine, viewed as the norm by the vast majority of British parents and their children, and we were dumbfounded when in the months to come it provoked sceptical comments in Portugal. Is the sound still okay, guys? Hello to everyone who's coming to chat that I haven't seen. Thanks for coming in. Okay, so after putting the children to bed, Jerry and I showered, dressed, and sat down with a glass of wine before heading over to the tapas restaurant, booked for 8:30. At that time, most Mark Warner resorts provided a babysitting service, a baby listening service. Basically, members of staff listening at regular intervals at the doors of the apartments and villas to check that none of the children inside had woken up. This service was not offered by the Ocean Club, presumably because it was less of a campus resort than others, with apartments scattered over a greater area. Instead, there was a creche where children could be looked after from 7:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Given that our children needed to be in their beds by that time, it opened the creche wasn't really workable for us. We both felt it would be too unsettling for them and would disrupt their sleep. Just tell Alec she needs something. The dog's crying over there for something. Sorry, guys. Um, At the restaurant, as the restaurant was so near, we collectively decided to do our own child checking service. The decision, one that we all made, is naturally being questioned time and time again, not least by us. It goes without saying that we now bitterly regret it and will do so until the end of our days. But it is easy to be wise after the event. Speaking for myself, I can say hand on heart that it never once crossed my mind that this might not be a safe option. If I had of any doubts whatsoever, I would simply never have entertained it. I love my 3 children above everything. They are more precious and special to me than life itself, and I would never knowingly place them at risk, no matter how small a risk it might seem to be. If we had any concerns we could have hired a babysitter, I could argue that leaving my children alone with someone neither we nor they knew would have been unwise, and it's certainly not something we do at home, but in fact we didn't even consider it. We felt so secure, we simply didn't think it was necessary. Our own apartment was only 30 to 45 seconds away, and although there were some bushes in between it, was largely visible from the tapas restaurant. We were sitting outside and could just as easily have been eating on a fine spring evening in a friend's garden with the kids asleep upstairs in the house. As it was, we were in an apparently safe, child-friendly holiday complex full of families just like ours. The children were fast asleep and being checked every 30 minutes. Even if there had been a baby listening service, it would not have given our kids as much attention as our own visits did. We were going into the apartment and looking all was well and listening. We later heard it was an option that had been chosen by many other parents at similar resorts before us, but I'm willing to bet not many since. Bringing up children, like all aspects of life, involves making hundreds of tiny and seemingly minor decisions every single day. balancing the temptation to mollycoddle them with the danger of being too laissez-faire. Sometimes, with hindsight, our judgment proves to have been right, sometimes wrong. Mostly when you make the wrong call, you can just chalk it up to experience and do it differently next time. It is our family's tragedy that this particular decision would have catastrophic, oh my god, catastrophic consequences. That Sunday night, we headed over to the restaurant. We were all there except Matt, who had been a bit of a dodgy stomach, which he attributed to something he'd eaten en route to Portugal. The rest of us enjoyed our meal. The food was good, and it was nice to have an adult time. There weren't many other diners, and since we were such a large group, we were focused on chatting to bantering with each other and not taking much notice of anyone else. It was, I remember, very cold and windy, and I discovered that 5 layers of clothing were required to keep me comfortable. We nipped back to our prospective apartments every half hour to check on the children. Apart from Rachel, since Matt had stayed behind, and Dave and Fiona, who was a state-of-the-art baby monitor with them, our visits always gave us a convenient opportunity to pop to the loo, or in my case, to pick up an extra cardigan. Jerry and I were back in our apartments by 11 p.m. Mind you, back then, we considered 10:30 a late night. As I've said, we didn't exactly live life on the edge, and David and Fiona in particular seemed to find our early bedtimes highly amusing. Who cares? We were happy and well rested. From some of the things that would be written about us in the coming months, you'd think we and our friends had been partying wildly nice on a night in Portugal. We may have been noisier than other tables at dinner. There were up to 9 of us talking across to each other, but we didn't linger late, and our alcohol consumption could hardly be described as excessive. We all had young children, which, as any parent knows, makes it impossible to burn the candle at both ends, and we were all up at 7:30 every morning. The following days settled into a similar pattern. We'd have a breakfast in the apartment, drop Madeline, Sean and Amali in their clubs, and head to the courts behind the tapas bars for our hour-long tennis lessons. Mine was at 9:15 and Jerry's at 10:15. We collect the children between 12:30 and return to the flat for lunch. And tales from the kids' club afterwards. We often call in on the others to pop down to David and Fiona's apartments, or pop down to the play area for a while. Most afternoons the children went back to their clubs while we played tennis, or went for a run, or read and chatted by the pool. We usually meet up with the children and nannies for tea, along with the rest of our friends, and then it was off to the play area again for some fun and good run around before the kids' bedtime. Sometimes in the early evenings there would be a light-hearted tennis event. Monday was ladies' night, for example, and on Tuesdays there was object tennis, which involved the guests providing the coaches with various objects they had to use instead of a racket. Jerry and I have always quite liked having a routine, though I wouldn't say we were obsessed by it, and our children, like most children, seemed to like it too. This holiday was no exception. It's hard to accept that living our lives in such an ordinary way might have been our downfall. Was someone watching us that week, watching Madeline, taking note of the patterns of our days? In spite of what we've been told about looking the tapas restaurant, Rachel managed to get a table for 9. At 8:30, penciled in for the rest of the week, having a word with the receptionist at the pool and tapasteria. It wasn't until a year later, when I was combing through the Portuguese police files, that I discovered that the note requesting our block booking was written in a staff message book, which sat on a desk at the pool reception for most of the day. This book was definition accessible to all staff, and albeit unintentionally probably to guests and visitors too. To my horror, I saw that, no doubt in all innocence and simply to explain why she was bending the rules a bit, the receptionist receptionist had added the reason for our request. We wanted to eat close to our apartments as we were leaving our young children alone there and checking on them intermittently. On the evening of the 30th of April, I made my first foray to Baptista with Jane. We wanted to stop up on a few essentials as the next day was a public holiday. We all managed to make it for dinner at the Tapas restaurant that evening. Again, there was quite a cold wind, but there were plenty of amusing stories and Mickey taking to keep us cheerful. Our apartment was cleaned on the Monday and Wednesday another pair by a middle-aged Portuguese lady. On Tuesday, May 1st, after the tennis lesson, two maintenance workers came to have a look at our washing machine, which I couldn't get to operate. Jerry had also managed to break the window shutter mechanism in our bedroom shortly after we'd arrived, in spite of the sign asking guests to be gentle with it. What can I say? It's a Jerry touch. The two men looked at the washing machine first. Once they'd established the problem was something simple, not quite as simple as me not having pressed on the on button, but not much more complicated than that. I went to meet Jerry, whose lessons had started at 10:15, leaving them to fix the shutter. During Jerry's tennis lesson, Madeline and Ella came to the adjoining court with their mini club for a mini tennis session. Jane and I stayed to watch them. It chokes me remembering how my heart soared with pride in Madeline that morning. She was so happy and obviously enjoying herself, standing there, listening intently to Kate's instructions. She looked so gorgeous in her little t-shirt and shorts, pink hat, ankle socks, and new holiday sandals that I ran back to our apartment for my camera to record the whole occasion. One of my photographs is known around the world now. A smiling Madeline clutching a armful of tennis balls, and at the end of their session, the children had been asked to run around the court and pick up as many balls as they could. Madeline had done really well and was very pleased with herself. Jerry loves that picture. In the afternoon, Jerry and I decided to take the children down to the beach. To be honest, I think they'd have been just as happy to go to their clubs, but we wanted to do something slightly different with them, just the five of us. We borrowed a double buggy pram from Mark Warner to make the walk easier for Sean and Amali. The weather wasn't great. In fact, on the beach, it started to rain. A bit of rain is not something that bothers a Scotsman like Jerry, but Sean and Amelie didn't like the feel of their wet sand and insisted, in the way 2-year-olds do, on being carried. Our trip to the beach wasn't exactly a roaring success, and the kids certainly weren't thankful for it. Still, we made the best of it, and and the suggestion of ice cream soon brought smiles to the three faces. The children and I sat down on a bench, and Jerry went off to fetch them. The shop was only about 25 feet away, yet when he called to ask me to give me a hand with the 5 ice creams he was paying for, I was momentarily torn. Would the children be okay on the bench while I nipped over? I hurried across, watching them all the time. How could I balk at leaving the kids to run a few yards for ice cream? I feel comfortable with the child checking arrangements we had at dinner. I haven't ever been able to rationalise this discrepancy in judgment to my own satisfaction, because in my subconscious, the prospect of three active children squabbling, hating themselves, or being hurt by somebody else in a public place in the middle of the afternoon rang more alarm bells than three sleeping children safely tucked up into bed, being checked on regularly. If the fear of abduction had ever entered my head, it would have been in the former situation. Having polished off her ice cream, Madeline asked if she could go back to the mini club. So much for extra family time. Before heading up the road, we stopped at a shop on the corner of Rua de Praia Avenda, one of the several open-air market-style stores, and Jerry needed a pair of sunglasses. A couple of the women who worked there were sitting by the stall, admiring and making a fuss of the children, who responded quite happily. These ladies were warm and friendly. This is the kind of thing that happens every day, especially in the southern European countries, and I only remember it at all because of what subsequently happened. You may be wondering not only what relevance all these minute details might have to anything, but also how I can recall them so distinctly and how accurate my recollections can possibly be. The answer is that within a couple of days, every single apparently inconsequential thing that happened on that holiday would become vitally important, and Jerry and I would soon be painstakingly trying to extract from our brains every tiny incident, no matter how small, that might have been significant. Armed with notebook, pen, and data photographs, I would be challenging myself to piece together as comprehensive an outline of the sequence's events as I could. The regular routines of the week helped to make any deviations from them stand out and undoubtedly made this easier. We dropped the kids off at their clubs for the last hour the last hour and a half, meeting up with them as usual for tea. Only two minor aspects of the evening stand out as differing from the norm. The first was that Russell didn't join us for dinner. Evie wasn't well, so he stayed with their girls in the apartment, and Jane took her meal over to him. The second was that sometime in the early hours, Madeline came through to our bedroom, complaining that Amalie was crying and had woken her up. Jerry checked on Amalie, who settled quickly, and we let Madeline jump into bed with us. Wednesday, 2nd of May, 2007. Our last completely happy day. Our last to date as a family of five. If only it was possible to rewind, even for an hour. Today it rained. The children went to their clubs, but our tennis lessons were postponed. Instead, we joined Fiona and David and Diane at the Millennium Restaurant for coffee. We then returned to our apartments, and a little while later, I left again to go for a run. I bought a new pair of running shoes a few days before we'd left for Portugal, and they were certainly getting a good edition. They were pink, which I wasn't quite sure about. I wondered how seriously a runner in pink trainers could be taken. But after a few outings in the sand, they weren't looking quite so glary and girly. As we ran along the promenade, a small dog jumped up from under the bench and attacked my right calf. It was pretty sore, and I was a bit shaken, but I carried on as coolly as I could manage. Maybe he just didn't like those pink trainers. Jerry and I picked up the children, had lunch in the apartment, and then took them to the play area for an hour before walking them to their clubs. The tennis group lesson was scheduled for the afternoon. Jerry's group first, followed by mine. After that, it was the usual routine. Tea with the children, playtime, bath time, milk, stories, kids' bedtime, get ready, tapas at 8:30. Tonight it was Rachel's turn to be feeling a bit under the weather, and she gave dinner a miss, remaining in her apartment next door to ours. The only other difference was that after dinner we ventured into the enclosed bar area, where it was to my relief warmer for a liquor. As a result, we went back to our apartments a little later than normal. It also meant that the time between our last check of the children and our return was longer, closer to 45 minutes. Ooh. At about 11:50 p.m., Jerry abruptly announced, "Right, I'm off to bed. Good night," as he turned to leave. Dave said jokingly, "She's not that bad, Jerry." I must admit it, I was slightly hurt that Jerry should just go off without me, as if I was unimportant, irrelevant, even. And Dave's remark was an indication that it wasn't just me being oversensitive. Let me tell you something about Jerry. His honesty and openness make him very direct, often to the point of bluntness, and he's not a touchy-feely guy like many men. He assumes I take his feelings as read and doesn't see any need to express them with soft soaping flowers or cards. And although, like most women, I would appreciate the odd romantic gesture, the fact that he has always been loyal, solid, and loving deep down, where it really matters, is far more important. It's just Jerry. I'm used to his ways, and generally any deficiencies in gallantry simply go over my head. As far as Jerry was concerned, it was late, he was tired, and he was going to bed. End of story. I'm not sure why I was miffed by his lack of social graces that particular evening. Perhaps because the other guys in the group were all attentive, new men compared with Jerry's at least, and I was a bit embarrassed. Anyway, I followed him a few minutes later. He certainly wasn't tired, because by the time I got into the apartment, he was asleep, and he certainly was tired. Snoring, in fact, still feeling a bit offended, I decided to go and sleep with the children. This was highly unusual, unprecedented even. The only occasion when we ever slept apart were when our jobs and our on-call duties dictated it. I wasn't the type to flounce off to a spare room, and never would have done so at home. I suppose it was because there was a bed made up and ready in the other bedroom, and at that moment my peaceful slumbering babies were more attractive roommates than my snoring husband. It was a storm in a teacup, and I loathe even to mention it, and it was such an isolated instance and not at all representative of our relationship. However, since every scrap of information was shortly to become potentially crucial, I feel it's necessary to state for the record that I was in the other room that night. They were kind of no bearing that I can imagine on subsequent events. That thought of Jerry and me sleeping alone on this of all nights still makes me feel sad. I mean, oh yes, that was the dog saying it's a swig break. Just do you know me? Things just fell out my ear. Is it gone? I've lost me earpiece. Oh well, he only needs one. It's alright. So is everyone okay? Isn't it awful? Like
You got it.
it's 10 to midnight, so late to leave the kids. I didn't
You
know
got
this
it.
myself. Now it's somewhere down there, is it? Can you see it? Now it's gone down the side to the cushion or me back.
Don't know. Yeah.
Oh, we all got it. I know. I never knew that myself. I didn't know that myself at all. Oh my God! For 45. So they went inside and they hadn't been over then to see the kids for 45 minutes. Oh my God! So just have a swig. This is Jessie's playtime. Jessie wants to play now. So where am I? Um, hang on. Okay. So where we are. On Thursday, the 3rd of May, I woke in the children's bedroom. I can't remember who was up first, but I know we all had service by about 7:30 a.m. I'm not even sure whether Jerry had actually noticed I'd slept in the other room, and I chose not to mention it. At breakfast time, Madeline had a question for us. Why didn't you come with Sean and I cried last night? We were puzzled. Did she mean when they were having their bath? We asked her, or just after they'd gone to bed. Children often get a bit fractious about bedtime, although I have no recollection of any tears from either Madeline or Sean before they settled the previous evening, and it certainly hadn't been in the early hours because I'd been in the room with them, even closer than usual. Madeline didn't answer or elaborate. Instead, she moved on to some other topic that had popped into her head. Apparently unconcerned, she certainly didn't seem to be all anxious or upset. Madeline is bright, articulate, and I have never been backwards in coming forwards. If something had happened to make her cry, it was pretty unlikely that she wouldn't tell us, assuming she remembered what it was. Jerry and I were disconcerted. Could Madeline and Sean have woken up while we were at dinner? If so, it was worrying, obviously, but it didn't seem to be very probable. As I've said, not only did they really stare at all at night, but if they did, it was hardly ever, and I mean ever, before the early hours. If they had done so on this occasion, it would mean they'd woken up, cried for a while, calmed themselves down, and fallen asleep again, all within the space of half an hour, or 45 minutes if it had been after our last check. Children usually need some soothing back to sleep once they've woken, especially if two of them are awake and upset at the same time, and it's seemingly highly unlikely they'd have gone through all these stages without one of them overlapping with one of our checks. It wasn't impossible, but it seemed implausible. Not for a moment did we think there might be some sinister reason for their occurrence. If indeed anything had occurred, if only foresight come as easily to us as hindsight, within hours the explanation for this would seem hugely important, and so haunted that I've ever been by Madeline's words that morning, that I've continued to blame myself for not sitting down and making completely certain there was no more information I could draw out of her. Why hadn't this rung any alarm bells with me? How did I manage to conclude, subconsciously or otherwise, that if she had woken, it was simply a rare, a rare thing with a benign cause, a bad dream perhaps? If in fact I ever did come to it did come to any real conclusion, it was more a case of a question just hanging there quietly, unanswered. There could have been my one chance to prevent what was about to happen, and I blew it. In the infrequent moments when think I'm able to be kinder to myself, I can acknowledge, if only temporarily, that there was absolutely nothing to give me any reason for suspicion, and that we can all be clever after the event. But it is my belief there was somebody either in or trying to get into the children's bedroom that night, and that is what disturbed them. The only other unexplained detail I remember from that morning was a large brown stain I noticed on Madeline's pink Ayo pyjama top. I couldn't recall seeing it the night before, and I had no idea how it might have got there. It looked like a tea stain. Jerry and I do drink quite a bit of tea, and Madeline too. She'd have the odd cup. So at that time, I just assumed it was a drink spillage that had escaped our attention, and that might be just all it was. But now, of course, we can no longer make assumptions about anything that we can't be accounted for. The morning continued like the others, with kids' clubs, tennis, and after my lesson I hung around on the grassy play area, watching Jerry on the course and chatting to Russell, who I found there. Another guest appeared with a video camera to record his 3-year-old also playing mini tennis. He looked a little embarrassed and laughingly remarked to us that filming this made him feel like a dirty old man. It led to a conversation between us three about paedophiles. I remember Russell talking about how everything he got a bit out of hand, that these days people were so untrusting you hardly dared speak to children you didn't know. What he was effectively saying was that the world had become paranoid, that he wanted his daughters to grow up with confidence and a sense of freedom. The other dad and I chipped in with our views. I mentioned not being allowed to take photographs of your own kids in swimming pools any longer, and we agreed that it was a shame things had come to this, especially for the children. It would be some days before Russell and I were able to acknowledge to each other the horrible irony of this conversation. A little later, near the sun lounges at the tapas end of the swimming pool, some of our group were discussing whether to cancel our dinner booking in the evening and take the kids to the Millennium instead. We heard that another couple we'd met had tried unsuccessfully to book a table at the tapas restaurant, and we wondered whether it was fair for us to be taken over the place. Although the restaurant was accepting other reservations, our party of 9 occupied most of the available places, and I, for one, felt rather guilty about that. However, When someone pointed out that we'd be gone by Saturday, and whereas this family was staying on for another week, it didn't seem quite so unreasonable, and we decided to stick with our original plan. Another of those apparently trivial decisions. I returned to our apartment before Jerry had finished his tennis lesson and washed and hung out Madeline's pyjama top on the veranda. After preparing some lunch, I went with Fiona to pick up Madeline and Scarlett, who was in the adjoining baby club, taking her on the quicker route through the grounds of the Ocean Club, where she hadn't yet discovered. Fiona and Dave had been windsurfing that morning and had seen Madeline's group, who had gone down to the beach for their mini sail activity. We heard later that they'd been on a speedboat as well as a dinghy. Fiona told me she'd spotted Ella there, but not Madeline. Some images are etched for a time on my brain. Madeline, that lunchtime, is one of them. She was wearing an outfit I bought especially for her holiday, a peach-coloured smock top from Gap and some white broderie shorts from Monsoon. A small extravagance, perhaps, but I pictured how lovely she would look in them, and I'd been right. She was striding ahead of Fiona, and me swinging her bare arms to and fro. The weather was a little on the cool side, and I remember thinking I should have bought a cardigan for her, although she seemed oblivious of the temperature, just happy and carefree. I was following her with my eyes, admiring her. I wonder now, the nausea raising in my throat, if someone else was doing the same. At the toddler club near the tapas restaurant, Fiona collected Lily and headed back to the flat. Madeline and I met up with Sean. Amali and Jerry returned to ours at lunch. As the children were getting quite restless in the apartment, we decided to get them out in the fresh air before the afternoon activities. We went to the play area, which was such a hit with our three that they never seemed to get fed up with it. We then sat around the toddler pool for a while, dipping our feet in, and I took what turned to be my last photograph to date of Madeline. Heartbreaking as it is for me to look at it now, it encapsulates the essence of Madeline, so beautiful and so happy. Together we took Sean and Amali back to the toddler club at around 2:40 and dropped Madeline off with Millie Tens 10 minutes later. Ella was already there, and Jerry and I booked an hour-long couples tennis lesson with a professional coach at 3:30. And as the courts were unoccupied, we decided to have a knock-up for half an hour first. Near the end of our lesson, as I strove desperately to improve my substance backhand, another guest appeared, and he and Jerry decided to have a game together. Having arranged with Jerry to meet the children, I opted to go for a run along the beach, where I spotted the rest of our holiday group. They saw me and shouted some words of encouragement. At least I think that's what they were shouting. I remember feeling completely disappointed that we hadn't known they were all heading for the beach, as it might have been nice to have joined them, especially for the kids. I wondered whether Madeline had been okay about staying behind at Mini Club when Russell or Jane had collected Ella. I wasn't to know at that stage that in fact they had only just arrived when I ran by. It's hard work being a mum sometimes, fretting about the possible effects of the smallest of incidents on your children. I'm sure a lot of these worries are unfounded, but it doesn't stop us having them, and we'll probably go on having them for the rest of our lives. I had finished my run by 5:30 at the tapas area, where I found Madeline and the twins already having their tea with Jerry. The others had decided to feed their kids at the beachside restaurant. Madeline was sitting on the tapas terrace, eating. She looked so pale and worn out. I went straight up to her and asked if she was all right. Had she been okay at the club when I left to go to the beach? Yes, she said, but now she was really tired and wanted me to pick her up, which I did. 10 minutes later, the five of us went up to our apartment. I was carrying Madeline because she was so exhausted. We skipped playtime that evening. Jerry was meeting Dave, Matt, and Russell at 6 for the men's social tennis night. We decided we bathed the children early, especially as they were all tired, and then I may take them down to the play area in their pyjamas for a little while. If they weren't quite ready for their beds, we'd see what'll happen. Jerry left just before 6, as I was drying the kids and putting on the twins' nappies. When they were all in their PJs, we went through the sitting room and I brought them some milk and biscuits. Actually, as a very special treat tonight, they had a few crisps as well. While they were looking at their books and playing with their games, I took a quick shower. Every other evening I'd waited until the children were asleep before showering, but as we were all ahead of schedule and I wanted to freshen up after my run, I thought I'd take advantage of these quiet few minutes. At around 6:40, as I was drying myself off, there was a knock on the patio doors, and I heard Dave's voice calling me. Swiftly, wrapping the towel around me, I stepped out to the sitting room. David had popped his head around the patio door, looking for me. The others had met up with Jerry at the tennis courts, and he mentioned we were thinking of bringing the kids to the play area. David nipped up to see if he could give me a hand taking them down, as they were all ready for bed and seemed content with their books. I decided they were probably past the stage of needing any more activity, so we went back to the tennis while I quickly dressed and sat down on the couch with the children. Who's under the tables wants to get it on with Case, do you reckon? Here is another of those vivid now cherished memories. Madeline in her Eeyore pyjamas, sitting on my lap and cuddling in, something she was especially fond of when she was tired. We were on we were on one of the two blue sofas, the one facing the patio doors, with Sean and Emily to our right. I read them a mock story by Judith Kay. Auntie Ale, my cousin Eileen, and Uncle Andy had bought this for Madeline on her third birthday, and it remains one of her favourites. She asked if she could wear my engagement ring, which she often liked to do. I took it off, and she put it on her middle finger for a few minutes. Jerry arrived back promptly at 7 p.m., sat down on the other couch, and we all chatted for a while. Then we shepherded our three little weary ones through to the bathroom to brush their teeth and for Madeline to do her bedtime wee wee. I took them all into their bedrooms. Madeline got into her bed, and then Amali, Sean, and I settled ourselves on top of it with our backs against the wall for our final story. If you're happy and you know it. Another present to Madeline, this one from Grace Auntie Janet and Grace Uncle Brian. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, says the monkey. Stamp your feet, says the elephant. If you're happy and you know it, it seems so fitting at the time. Madeline, obviously exhausted, and her head sank down on her pillow intermittently, although she did join in with the babbled response of her little brother and sister. It's strange the things you remember. Two pages at the end of the book are divided up into squares, most of them containing one of the animals featured earlier. Madeline started to count these. She included a couple of the blank squares, and I was about to point this out to her when I checked myself, realizing she was counting the squares regardless of whether or not there was an animal inside. What did it matter anyway? I felt a surge of pride in her. A boring and redundant detail you may think, but now any memory of my baby is to be treasured, especially one of her last to date. I have to cling on to it. Jerry came through to say good night. We helped Sean and Amali give their big sister a night night kiss before laying them into the adjacent travel cots. Then we kissed the twins and kissed Madeline, already snuggled down with her princess blanket and cuddle cat, a soft toy she'd been given soon after she was born, and never went to bed without. We were in no doubt that all three would be asleep in an instant. As always, we left the door a few inches open to allow a glimmer of light into the room. Between 7:15 and 7:30, Jerry took a shower and I went to blow dry my wayward fringe and put on a bit of makeup. We then sat down together in the sitting room for three-quarters of an hour or so and relaxed with a drink. We talked about the holiday and whether we'd do anything differently if we come again, which he had always been considering. We both thought that another time We quite like to stay in the apartment on our own some evenings. The other couples probably felt that way too. Have a leisurely dinner in the sitting room or on the veranda and enjoy one of our famous early nights. In fact, we'd wondered about doing that tonight, but as it was such a short holiday and almost over, it seemed a bit unsociable not to join in with everyone. Another decision that could have gone either way. Just after 8:30, Jerry checked on the children and then we left for the tapas restaurant. We exited via the patio doors at the back, facing the restaurant and pool area, just as we had done the previous 3 nights. There was a lamp on in the sitting room. The long curtains on the inside of the glass doors were drawn, and the doors themselves closed, but not locked. We shut behind us both the child safety gate at the top of the short flight of steps and the gate at the bottom, as we always did. We headed straight to the restaurant without seeing anyone. We were the first of our party to arrive. Catching the sight of Steve and Carolyn, a couple from Jerry's tennis club, a small table near the one reserved for us, we stood talking to them for 5 minutes or so as we chatted. As we did, our friends began to appear. Jane first, and then about 8:40, followed a few minutes later by Rachel and Matt. Next came Russell and finally Fiona, David and Diane. Jane reported that Evie was still a little off her food, despite being her usual cheery self. By 9 p.m. we were all seated and had begun ordering drinks, starters and main meals. We mentioned to the others what Madeline had said that morning. Obviously, we didn't want any of our children waking and wondering where we were for even a few minutes, and if the chances of that happening seemed remote, it was enough of a concern to make us absolutely prompt with our checks on the kids. That is why Jerry and I were subsequently able to be so accurate about timings. After ordering his food, Jerry left to do the first check just before 9:05 by his watch. He entered the apartment via the patio doors and noticed almost immediately that the children's bedroom door was further ajar than it had been. He glanced into our room to make sure Madeline hadn't wandered in there, as she was prone to do if ever she woke in the small hours. Seeing no little body curled up in our bed, he went over to look in on the children. Madeline was lying there on her left side, her legs under the covers in exactly the same position as we'd left her. For Jerry, this became one of those images I described earlier, pictures that fix themselves almost photographically in your memory. He paused for a couple of seconds to look at Madeline and thought to himself, she's so beautiful. After pulling the bedroom door to, resorting it to its original angle, he went to the bathroom before leaving the apartment. As he closed the gate to the street behind him, Jerry saw just Jeremy Wilkins, a guy from his tennis group, walking towards him on the other side, pushing his younger child in a buggy. With his meal already ordered, Jerry hesitated about pausing to speak to him and took a few strides before making up his mind and crossing over to say hello. He explained why he was pushing his baby around in the buggy to try get him off to sleep, and Jerry told him about our own childcare arrangements. The conversation probably lasted only a few minutes, but it was long enough for me to wonder where Jerry had gone. On this occasion, he mentioned he'd met Jess. By the time Jane had left to make sure her daughters were okay en route to apartments, we learned later she had seen Jerry and Jess on the street. For the record, there was subsequently some uncertainty about which side of the road Jess and Jerry were actually on. Jane and Jess remember it as the same side as the entrance, whereas Jerry is sure he crossed the street. Either way, exactly where they were standing is not crucial. What may be important is that all three of them were there. At 9:30 p.m., I stood up to go and make our second check. Almost simultaneously, Matt got to his feet to see to Grace. At his apartment, He was right next door. He offered to look in on R3 while he was there. I hesitated. I was quite happy to go myself, but it seemed a little bit silly to insist when Matt was going anyway. Oh, okay then. My turn next. When Matt returned, he assured us all quiet. At 10 p.m., I went back to the apartment myself. I entered the sitting room via the patio doors, as Jerry and Matt had done, and stood there listening for a few seconds. All was silent. Then I noticed that the door to the children's bedroom was open quite wide, not how we had left it. At first I assumed that Matt must have moved it. I walked over and gently began to pull it too. Suddenly, it slammed shut as if caught by a draft. A little surprised, I turned to see if I'd left the doors open, which had let in the breeze. Retracing my steps, I confirmed that I hadn't. Returning to the children's room, I opened the door a little, and as I did so, I glanced over at Madeline's bed. I couldn't quite make it out in the dark. I remember looking at it and looking at it for a while, and it was only probably a few seconds, though it felt like much longer. It seems so daft now, but I didn't switch on the light straight away. Force of habit, I suppose, taking care to avoid waking the children at all costs. When I realised Madeline wasn't actually there, I went through to our bedroom to see if she got out of bed and got into ours. That would explain the open door. On the discovery of another empty bed, the first wave of panic hit me as I ran back into the children's room. The curtains, the curtains flew up in a gust of wind. My heart lurched as I saw now behind them the window was wide open and the shutters on the outside raised up all the way. Nausea, terror, disbelief, fear, icy fear. Dear God, no, please, no. On Madeline's bed, the top right-hand corners of the covers were still turned over, forming a triangle. Cuddle Cat and her pink princess blanket were lying where they'd been when we kissed her. I dashed over to the second bed on the other side of the travel cot to where the twins slept. Oblivious, and I looked out through the window. I've no idea what I expected to see there. Refusing to acknowledge that I already knew, and perhaps automatically going into well-practiced medical emergency mode, I quickly scoured the apartment to exclude all other possibilities, mentally ticking boxes that I knew deep down were already ticked. I checked the wardrobe in the children's room. I ran in the kitchen, throwing open all the cupboard doors, into our bedroom, searching the wardrobes, in and out of the bathroom, all within about 15 seconds, before hurtling out through the patio doors and down towards Jerry and our friends. As soon as our table was in sight, I started screaming, Madeline's gone. Someone's taken her. Everyone seemed frozen for a split second. Perhaps unable as I'd been to process this information, then they all jumped up from their chairs and ran towards me. I remember Jerry saying, She must be there, but by now I was hysterical. She's not, she's gone. Everybody sprinted back to our apartment, except for Diane, who remained in the tapas area, and Jane, who was away from the table seeing to her kids. I remember feeling frustrated when David said, let's just check the apartment. I'd done that, and I knew for sure that Madeline had been abducted. I ran out into the car park, flying from one end to the other, yelling desperately, Madeline, Madeline. It was so cold and so windy. I kept picturing her in short sleeves, Marks and Spencer's Eeyore pajamas, and feeling how chilled she would be. Bizarrely, I found myself thinking it would have been better if she'd been wearing her long-sleeved Barbie ones. Fear was shearing through my body. In the children's room, Jerry lowered the shutters at the open window. Rushing outside, he made the sickening discovery that it could be raised from this side too. Not just from inside, as we'd thought. Jerry, David, Russell and Matt split into pairs and dashed around the adjacent apartment blocks, meeting back at our flat within a couple of minutes, just after 10 past 10. Jerry asked Matt to run to the Ocean Club's 24-hour reception to get the staff to call the police. All the screaming and shouting had now alerted other guests and staff that something was amiss. and various people were beginning to appear outside the apartment, front and back. I vividly recall sobbing, "Not Madeline, not Madeline, please not Madeline." I was trying so hard to suppress the negative voice in my head, tormenting me with the words, "She's gone, she's gone." Even now, when the dark clouds close in on me, I find myself shaking my head manically and repeating over and over again, "Not Madeline. Please God, not my Madeline." Jerry and I were standing in the living room clutching each other, utterly distraught. I couldn't help myself, let alone try to soothe Jerry, who was in a state too harrowing for me to bear, howling for his precious little girl. I kept blaming myself. "We've let her down. We've failed her," which increased Fiona's own distress. "You haven't, Case, you haven't." By this time, the Mark Warner people had rounded up as many of their colleagues as they could, off-duty staff as well as those just finishing their shifts, rousing some of them from their beds. Close to 10:30, they activated the company's missing child search as protocol and mobilised people to come to the complex. As it environs at 10:35, the police had still not arrived, so Jerry asked Matt if he could go down to the 24-hour reception and find out what was happening. John Hill, the Mark Warner resort manager, came up to the veranda behind our apartment. I remember screaming at him to do something. "Where are the police?" I yelled at him. He tried to reassure me they'd be with us soon, but I could tell that he too was finding the waiting difficult. Minutes felt like hours. I was just so overwhelmed by fear, helplessness, and frustration. I was hitting out at things, banging my fists on the metal railings of the veranda, trying to expel the intolerable pain inside me. Jerry had been over to the mini club above the 24-hour reception, thinking that if Madeline had been left somewhere, she might possibly make her way back to any place that was familiar to her. Our friends were running to and fro between the tapas area, the pool, with people trying to find anyone and ring the police again from there. Despite the horror of the situation, some sense of the necessity to approach the crisis calmly and method, no, God, methodically appeared to kick in among our friends as they tried to exert some type of control over the chaos. What could be done? What should be done? Aware that we were only an hour and a half drive from southern Spain and beyond, they laid the borderless continent of Europe, not to mention the short hop across the Strait of Gibraltar to the North Africa. David was saying we need roadblocks set up. The borders to Spain, Morocco and Algiers needs to be alerted. Russell later asked us for our digital photographs of Madeline and went off somewhere with our camera. Jerry, meanwhile, was running from pillar to post, urging me to remain in the apartment with the twins so that I'd be on hand if Madeline was found and brought back there. He'd asked Fiona to stay with me. I was in our bedroom on my knees beside the bed, just praying and praying and praying, begging God and Our Lady to protect Madeline and help us find her. They had heard many a supplication from me in the past, but none so intense nor so important as these. At some point, Emma Knight, the Mark Warner customer care manager, came in and sat on the bed next to me. She was very nice and tried her best to comfort me, but my grief was so agonising and so personal that I wasn't sure whether I wanted her there or not. I didn't really want anyone around me but people I knew well. Another British woman in her late 40s or early 50s turned up on our veranda at one point and kept trying to put her arm around me. She was quite drunk and smelt of cigarettes, and I remember willing her to go away. Then a lady appeared on a balcony. I'm fairly certain this was about 11 p.m. before the police arrived, and in a plummy voice inquired, "Can someone tell me what all this noise is about?" I explained as clearly as I was able, given the state I was in, that my little girl had been stolen from her bed, to which she casually responded, "Oh, I see, almost as if she'd just been told that a can of beans had fallen off a kitchen shelf. I remember feeling both shocked and angry at this woefully inadequate and apparently unconcerned reaction. I recollect that in our outrage, Fiona and I shouted back something rather short and to the point. I wandered into the children's bedroom several times to check on Sean and Amali. They were both lying on their fronts in a kind of crouch, with their heads turned sideways and their knees tucked under their tummies. In spite of the noise, lights, and general pandemonium, they hadn't stirred. They'd always been sound sleepers, but this seemed unnatural. Scared for them too, I placed the palms of my hands on the backs to check for chest movements, basically for some sign of life. Had Madeline been given some kind of sedative to help her to keep her quiet? Had the twins too? It was not until about 11 that two policemen arrived from the nearest town, Lagos, about 5 miles away. To me, they seemed bewildered and out of their depth, and I couldn't shake their images of Tweedledum and Tweedledee out of my mind. I realised how unfair that might sound, but with communication hampered by the language barrier and precious time passing, their presence did not fill me with confidence at all. We did not appreciate until later that these two officers were from the Garda National Republicana, or GNR, who were essentially military police, like the gendarmes in France or Guardia Civil in Spain, run by the Interior Ministry. They deal with matters like highway patrol and crowd control, and are also responsible for law enforcement in more rural areas like the Algarve, but they do not handle criminal investigations. At that stage, of course, we weren't familiar with the various tiers of the Portuguese police system. As far as we were concerned, they were simply the police. We tried to explain what had happened. David told them the concerns about roadblocks and border notification, and I reported my fears that all three children could have been sedated. A lady called Sylvia, who worked at the Ocean Club, had arrived to help out with translation. We learned later that she was the maintenance and service manager. I remember her telling me she had two grown-up daughters herself. She was very kind, and I was glad of her help and support. I didn't yet know that around 9:15, Jane had seen a man on the Rua de Agostinho da Silva carrying a child who appeared to be asleep. When I discovered that Madeline was missing, she had been in her apartment 3 doors along. Hearing the commotion, she had come out and discovered what was going on. Taking Fiona to one side, she told her how, after leaving the restaurant to make her first check on the children and having passed Jerry and Jess talking on the Rue de Jantal Martins, she had seen this man crossing the junction 10 or 15 feet in front of her, walking from left to right, oblivi- obli- obviously, at the time, she had thought little of it. As far as any of us knew, Madeline was asleep in bed, and having just seen Jerry, Jane was well aware that he had been in our apartment only just a few minutes before. Quite naturally, she'd assumed the man was a father with a child, perhaps on their way home from a creche. As soon as she heard about Madeline's disappearance, everything fell into place, and she felt sick. She immediately reported this sighting to the police. Jerry was informed, but given the condition I was in, he did not share this development with me until the morning. While the officers looked around, Jerry called his sister Tricia. As difficult as it was to tell our family, we knew we needed help from home, and quickly Tricia, who was a nurse, and her husband Sandy, are Madeline's godparents, and two of life's copers. Jerry was a mess, roaring like a bull, as Trish put it, and sobbing down the phone. She could barely make out what we were saying. It was painful for me to be strong and assertive. Husband unravelling and frightening for her to hear wee brow in this state. I could hear him crying over and over, "She's gone, Tricia, she's gone." After Jerry rang off, Tricia and Sandy called the Foreign Office in London, the British Consulate in the Algarve, and the British Embassy in Lisbon, requesting assistance. It was also left to them to tell the rest of Jerry's family. Trish drove over to their mum's. This was not the news. This was not news that could be broken to her over the phone. At 11:52 p.m., Jerry spoke to my Uncle Brian and Auntie Janet in Rotherley. At my request, Janet is a woman of strong faith, and I wanted her to start praying for Madeline as soon as possible. Brian then got in touch with the duty officer at the Foreign Office in London. They, the call I've been putting off now had to be made. My mum and dad completely adore Madeline, and I just couldn't bring myself to shatter their worlds. I dreaded to think what this would do to them. So just after midnight, it was Jerry who had to tell them. Distraught, they rang friends and family who immediately rallied to their support. I'm pretty sure that initially the GNR officers assumed Madeline had simply wandered off by herself. By midnight, however, evidently they were concerned enough to inform the police, the main force that actually investigates crimes, under the aegis of the Ministry of Justice, the PJ, were based in the larger town of Portmeyer, 20 miles or so from Praia de Leu, and took over an hour to arrive. It felt more like a day to Jerry and me. Eventually, shortly after 1 a.m., two officers walked in. Once again, the events of the evening were relayed to them, and brief statements taken from us. Dave asked whether we should get the media involved to increase awareness and recruit more help. The reply was swift and unanimous. No media, no media. People had been in and out of the apartment for the last 3 hours, and until one of the PJ officers stuck a piece of police tape across the doorway of the children's room, it was Jerry who tried to make sure everyone kept clear of it. Now one of the PJ men, I remember very distinctively, was quite young, and I assumed probably quite junior. Entering the room, where the twins were still asleep, with a brush and a pair of latex gloves, he also tried to take fingerprints from Jerry and me. Unsuccessfully, as it turns out, we had to provide them again the next day at the police station. Then they asked for our passports, including Madeline's. Meanwhile, desperate for God's intervention for ourselves and for Madeline, I asked the resort staff if they might be able to find a priest to come and pray with us and support us. I think they tried, but either they couldn't contact anyone or there was no priest available. So I carried on praying on my own. The pain, terror, and the suffocation, the helplessness I felt, and the indesirable things, they just aren't the words to adequately convey such torment. Just after 2 a.m., I spoke to my friend's father, Paul Seddon, the priest who had married Jerry and me and baptized Madeline. He offered me words of comfort and then prayed for our little girl. Next, I called my best mate, Michelle. I needed her to get her large Catholic family praying too. Perhaps not surprisingly, given the hour, nobody answered the phone at home. Eventually, at about 3 a.m., I managed to get hold of Michelle's partner, John, on his mobile. When I told him what had happened, I don't think he believed me at first. He even said, "You're joking, aren't you?" He'd undoubtedly been asleep. I wasn't at my most coherent, and I was trying to tell him, hang on, I was trying to tell him was just so far off most people's radar, it was hard to grasp. Poor John, I don't think he could quite get his brain in gear for a moment. He just sat there. Michelle was asleep, implying that it wasn't a good moment, as if I'd phoned for a desultory chat at an inconvenient time. I urged him to wake it up. No one's listening, I wept. Nothing's happening. The next day, I knew the police officers were heading for the front door. I felt another surge of panic. When I asked them anxiously where they're going, they said they had finished for tonight. They told me we could take whatever we needed for the twins from the children's room. Rather more frantically, I tried to establish what would be happening next, and for the remainder of the hours of darkness, the only answer the officers gave us was that they would come back in the morning. Pressed as to when, they said it would be after 9, and with that they were gone, leaving us to our own devices. Surely that couldn't be it for the night. The sense of helplessness, agitation, just kept intensifying. Dave, seeing Jerry's anguish and frustration at how little was done, knew Madeline needed more help than she was getting. At some point before PJ left, a retired British couple in a nearby apartment lent him their computer, and he sent an email to Sky News alerting them to the abduction of our daughter using an address listed on their website. Evidently, this wasn't the best way of contacting Sky. As it turns out, David's email remained buried in some inbox, despite the fabricated tales that later emerged in certain quarters suggested that he had contacted the media before we'd even called the police. Apparently the first guy had heard of Madeline's disappearance was from the Press Association and from seeing one of our friends on GMTV later that morning. Though we know little of what was going on at the time, it is true that the news filtered through overnight. Rachel had contacted a friend of hers at the BBC seeking help and advice, and several friends in the UK informed the press sometime after 7 a.m. We probably could have stayed in our apartment, but who would have wanted to? Looking back, it's inexplicable, of course, that we should ever have been left in what was now a crime scene. We wouldn't even have been allowed to take things out of the children's room. We should never have been allowed. Mark Warner had prepared another flat for us on the first floor of an adjacent block, but Jerry and I were in no condition to be on our own. We couldn't look after ourselves, let alone the twins. So the staff put up 2 extra cots in Fiona and David's apartment, and we carried a sleepy Sean and Amali into their sitting room, but I needed to keep them close to me. I lowered myself down on the couch with Fiona. She took a twin from me, and we both sat there hugging the children. Holding one of my babies provided me with some much needed comfort, albeit fleetingly. On my first insistence, Jerry and Dave went out again to look for some more sign of Madeline. They went up and down the beach in the dark, running, shouting, desperate to find something. Please God, to find Madeline herself. It was only much later that Jerry told me he'd already started remembering cases of other missing children and acknowledging the horrific possibility that Madeline might not be found. It was a possibility I could not have begun to contemplate. I don't know whether the Mark Warner staff was still searching. I couldn't see anyone about at this time, except for a couple of GNR police cars in the road outside and a handful of officers hanging around. None of them appeared to be doing anything. I couldn't stand the thought of nothing happening while time marched onwards. Madeline could be miles away by now. At one point, I went out to speak to the police, needing some reassurance. It was difficult, and exasperations of a communication was so limited, and there was no reassurance to be had. I walked briskly up and down, sometimes breaking into a jog, clinging to the hope that I'd spot something in the dark. The fear of Madeline being dumped somewhere and dying of hypothermia started to hijack my thoughts. Back in the apartments, the cold black night enveloped us all for what seemed like an eternity. Diane and I sat there just staring at each other, still as statues. It's so dark, she said again and again. I want the light to come. I felt exactly the same way. Jerry was stretched out on a camp bed with Amali asleep on his chest. He kept saying, Case, we need to rest. He managed to drift off, but only briefly, certainly for less than half an hour. I didn't even try. I couldn't have I couldn't have allowed myself to entertain sleep. I felt Madeline's terror, and I had to keep vigil with her. I needed to be doing something, but I didn't know where to put myself. I wandered restlessly in and out of the room and onto the balcony. At long last, dawn broke. Just gonna have another swig. How's everyone doing? Is this coming across okay? Or am I muddling things up too much? Oh, I think just looking now. I've only got I've only got a bit to read now. Oh, it's all broke. So I may as well stop there because then I'm on to the next part. So I've done 4 and 5, and now I can continue with 6 tomorrow, if that's okay with yous. Is that okay, girls and guys? I don't know who's there. Let's have a look. Try a spoon. Could you understand me okay? Because I can't do them words. I haven't got a clue. Let's see who's here. Let's have a look. Ooh, yeah, well, I'd love to do them Daniel Steele ones and all that. But Pink, you're going to have to tell me about these audiobooks. I can't wait for you to tell me. You won't come up on panel, will you, Pink? Oh, God. Do you know what? My eyes are gone all funny. Trying to see the chat in my eyes. It's gone all blades. What's this? Maggie, are you and Leanie safe right now? Yeah, love, why wouldn't we be? We're fine. Who's Mr. Nice Guy? Good to see you anyway. Yeah, we're all safe. Everyone's fine. No problem. Oh my God, there's a man on for a fugitive in Kentucky. Oh, well, I'm alright here, Mr. Nice Guy. I'm miles away in the UK. They still haven't caught him. Oh, I'd be terrified. Be terrified. I hope everyone's okay. Oh God. Google his name. Oh, thank you, Maggie. I love this and appreciate it. Cheers, Pink. You always make me feel so good. Try the boom. Is it Audible, the app? Yes, that works out great. This is so interesting. I never knew about the window and all that. Well, there you go. I didn't know. Why would they not have seen that worked from inside as well? Because you know what? I'd have been all over that like a rash. I'd have been checking everything. I mean, I'm sitting here and I don't think they had anything to do with it, but there's no chance on God's earth am I going to leave my kids and go just a bit over the road, especially as there's another way into that apartment. If it didn't have a door or a window at the back and just had the one window at the front, and I could see that one window, then there's no one getting in there without me seeing. But still, you can take your eye off for a second. That's all it needs. So God in heaven only knows why they did that, and it's something they've got to live with the rest of their lives, and they are. They are. Oh, thanks, Pink. Amazon Maggie, but check your local library because the library do them also online. I'll have to look. So you just join the library. So you know when you say on Amazon, what do you put in? Think just audio books. I'm sure I did that last time, but she definitely has a voice of a robot. Does your ones have a voice of a robot? The window opens onto the street, so I would definitely eject those shutters. That's what I mean. I wouldn't have gone with you, knowing there's another way in at the back. So they were at the back. That's where they were. So the tapas restaurant was at the back. So they said they barely used the door, didn't they? They were always going through the patio at the back. So the front door never got used. So therefore, the way in was the front door. On the window, obviously they got through the window because the curtains were all blown. Oh, how scary is that? And no one heard them shutters or nothing. Me too. I would have put something in that window where my babies were sleeping to lock it extra, even if it was always there. I'm telling you, you would have done something. I use Audible and my library. So when you say you use Audible, do you mean on Amazon? So okay, it's an app called Audible through Amazon. They are narrated by oh God, how am I going to do this? I'm trying to work it out. So you know when you're looking for something on Amazon, I'm going to have these demented. So when you're looking for something on Amazon and you just type it in, how do I just put in Audible app? Is that what I put in? I always check the face, Maggie. Is if the voice is annoying, I can't listen. Well, that was it. She was definitely like, say for instance, I'm going to read what you said. Yeah, it is an app called Audible through Amazon. They are narrated by real people. That's what she sounded like. I thought, oh, I can't listen to that. I can't listen to that all night. I have Audible app, but I thought you'd have to buy the books. Well, Pink doesn't pay for it, Liz. She gets it free. Oh, I've got to get onto that. I'll be made up. Can you put real things that's happening now, like true crime things? You know that we watch on YouTube. Can you watch true crimes like that? Oh, I'll be made up. I'll only listen to about 3 sentences and I'll be snoring. Jesse, you haven't been snoring, have you? Oh my God, just looked over. Alex head's bent down to his knees almost and he's asleep. Looked over, Jesse's snoring. Never seen a dog in the shape she sleeps. I swear to God. Her arms are down by her knees. Her top arms, by her chest. Is down, pointing down towards her knees. I'm not messing. So she doesn't look like a dog from here. What's that all about? She's alright with nice guy pants. She was when I last spoke to her anyway. She's doing a bit of painting, doing some decorating in the house, getting it all sorted. Wish I was getting mine sorted. Ain't any good at painting, Mr. Nice Guy? You can change the speed to suit you too. So it's not free, but there are free books loads of them. Are they pricey, Pink? I've got what have I got? What's that one that I've got on my phone? And I've got all my books in it. But they don't talk. I've got to read them. What's it called? Oh, come on, Pink, help me out. It's the app on my phone, and I can read the books at any time I want. And I've got it's loads of books in there. And guess what? Never ever read one of them. I always say when I go away, I'm going to lie down under the umbrella and I'm going to read like I see people do. But I never do. You know why? Because I'm a people watcher. I love to watch people. Oh, podcasts as well. Do you know who's got a podcast? Oh God, see me, my brain. What's her name? She does. It's called Seriously. She's on here on YouTube, and it thingy Elise. What's her name? Elise. 10 to Life. She does hers on podcasts on, is it Spotify? I listen to some of hers. Well, that's alright if you're a good reader. I mean, I don't read that often, but I'd love to read them audiobooks of hers. I'd be made up every night. You can get free 3-month trial or 3 months for 99 pence. Go away. They always have offers on. When you join up, I've had it for years as I can no longer read. Wow, that's brilliant. Hey, listen to this, Timu. I didn't know this. I can't be bothered going on Timu and they offer you things. I think it's a load of bullshit, right? Next thing it said, pick 3 free things. So I picked 3 free things and it said, okay, just check your address, blah, blah, blah. Click it and send it. Am I really going to get them 3 things? Because they haven't arrived yet. And then it says, pick so many things for 50%. So it did that as well, and I'm waiting for them to come. Will I really get them? I can't get over it. Kindle! That's it, the Kindle. Yeah, I've got loads of the Kindle, but I'd rather listen. Definitely. The Kindle is, oh yeah. I used to have the Kindle book thing itself, but now they're in my phone. Podcast too. I like the one true crime. I like the one true crime all the time. Is that the name of the channel? You'll kill me in a minute. I haven't got a clue. So now I have loads of this. Listen, yes, my daughter just got free stuff with her order. Oh my god. Well, this is what they did, Pink, right? Ordered loads because I needed loads of stuff for my holidays. So we ordered loads and I was waiting for ages. So I ordered 2 pairs of sliders, all kinds of t-shirts. The t-shirts were perfect. One of the cardigans, just like a thin, lacy crochet cardi, just to throw on if nice if it gets a bit nippy being October. And I ordered one in white and one in like a biscuit colour. And the one in white they sent me was a big, thick white one with long sleeves. So that got posted back. The 2 sliders were 3 times too big. So we'll look to check that I'd not made the mistake because I'm doing it all the time. And I hadn't. So they got sent back as well. I'm like fuming over it. Yes, it's the name of the channel. True crime all the time. It's a good one. 2 guys telling stories. Ooh, is it on here as well? Lunchy. I'll call you Lunchy instead of Lunch Lady. Ooh, what did I just pick there? Hello, you're going to sleep. I'm going to put you on this thing in a minute. If you fall asleep, your head's down there. I'm going to put you live. Let them all see. Do you know what he does? He carries on where he left off. He just picked his phone up. His phone's in his hand falling, but he just like picks it back up and starts scrolling through his phone like he's just been doing it. Honest to God. So guys, do you want to come back tomorrow night and round the same time and me to read the rest? Or do you want to leave it for a couple of nights? It's up to you. There are loads of free audiobooks online if you look, Maggie, but the library definitely do them. I'm definitely going to look into that. I really am. It just put me off because of that woman talking like that. I thought that must be what they all sound like. Yeah, perfect. It may be. Lunchy. That's your name, Lunchy. So was that time okay for you, Lunchy? Tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time. How far back are you from us? What time will 8 p.m. in the night be for you? Your time, lunch? Jeez, freezing. Oh, it's okay as long as it's okay for you. I don't care if there's only three or four of us in. I'm not bothered by that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not bothered. Some people might not want to read it. Some people read it all anyway. But I have never read that book. As I say, I got it, and I just never got round to reading it. I'll tell you who else I've got up there that I never read him as well. Oh, what was his name? The fella, and he abducted the kids and kept them downstairs in his basement for years, and he got her pregnant, and they had kids, and they were all downstairs. Oh, what was his name? Flem, something. Oh, was he in? I was going to ask Al. He's gone to sleep again. Wait, what was that fella's name, Alec? I've got the book upstairs. Something. Frezel. No. Frezel or something. Britzel. Where's him shouting? Britzel. Joseph Britzel. Yeah, I've got that book as well, and I haven't read that. I am loving this. I could get used to it. Sure. What is it, Pink? Tell us. I want to know. Oh God. Now a lot in it is about you. That I just Emma Kenny's new book. You've just what was it about? Yeah, Joseph. Oh, he was a Tracy. I'll guess him, wasn't he? Lunch lady. I love Emma Kenny. She is boss. Boss. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do in a minute. When I get off here, I go up and get washed and get ready to get into bed. My eyes are starting to burn already. I'm going to look that up, the audio books, see what I can find, and then I'll look into it better tomorrow when I get up, and I'll listen to my true crime. I'm following that Maddie Soso. My heart's broken. I can't get over that bastard. I can't get over him. I'm obsessed listening to that. The audio tapes I'm on now. So excuse me, always something coming up new about it. I want to know, right? I want to know why he went back to where Maddie's body was. Why did he go back the second time? What was he doing? What did he do? They always like to go back to the scene of the crime, don't they? How weird. But why does he go back? Normally they go back because they like to watch the people watching and knowing that they know it all and they're all wondering. But no one was there. Wasn't it the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning or something? He went back. Do you know what? At first I thought she's just thick. She's absolutely thick, and He's had a ball having his cake and eating it, while soft girl hasn't got a clue what's going on. But do you know What's made me think is she turned out and said to Daisy Dick on one of the texts he found, I can't take the chance. Maggie's not sleeping with me anymore. I can't take that chance. So that got my mind going to all places that my mind shouldn't be going. And I'm thinking on one thing, I'm thinking, so hang on, with them two having sex in the bed while Madeline was in that bed with them. I mean, she was almost 13. Was was Madeline watching and they knew it? Or I don't believe that, but this is things that's going on in my brain. And then I'm going down a darker route that I won't even say. But my mind's getting warped thinking of all kinds because he was a sicko. What do you mean mention the boy? What do you mean pink? What do you mean? I think he mentioned the boy. He was a freak, he was a demon, he was. I said he was the devil himself, him. The devil, she let the devil in that house, and that was him. Lucifer. The boy oh, do you mean why he killed her, Pink? Yeah, I think so too. I think she must have been telling him she liked him and he knew that. I think he thought once she gets in with this boy, and you know the way as a relationship progresses, and they start asking each other if they ever done anything with anyone before, and he'd be terrified that she's going to open her mouth about him, and he's thought, no, I've got to shut her up. Do these people think they're going to get away with this? I mean, for all the years he did that and put it on his phone, he must have constantly been sitting there when he wasn't staying there looking at that and getting off on it. But I believe he was sending them to other paedophiles. I do. Because there was speculation, wasn't there, that she was pregnant. But I don't think she was. But they won't say, will they? Because she was a child. They won't reveal the results of the autopsy. Yeah, that was the other thing. Twice, wasn't it? Twice. So what I mean, you wouldn't know what they've done, whether they've taken that kid to get rid or whatever. Oh, it's just sickening. The whole thing is sickening. And then she just handed the ashes over to the father. I can't get my head around it. Did she feel that much guilt that she thought, I don't have the right to have this? That's got to be the only explanation that she's done that in my brain. What other reason would she do that? Or does she know she's going to go to prison eventually? Does she know? Have you been watching it, Lizzo? I can't stop watching it. As soon as I get off and get into bed, I'm scrolling looking for it. Honest to God, I am scrolling, listening. I have to keep going backwards to keep falling asleep. But it's horrific. Horrific. You still there, Liz? She fell asleep. I don't understand how she gets away scot free unless they are building a case. Well, you know what? I watched what's his name, Chris McDonough, and the interview room. Do you watch him, Pink? And he did one on Madeline, so you'll have to watch it. I think he did two. And it says that they could be building a case there. That people who think in that, it doesn't necessarily mean it. They could just be building a case. Oh, Liz, honest to God, you just wouldn't believe, Gail. You wouldn't believe it's sickening. I said the same. I said the same. And the way he was sitting in the back of that truck and that police officer was talking to them, I know that they've just got to treat them, but he didn't have to make conversation. He didn't have to make conversation at all. How could he have just spoke so matter of factly like that to him? I would be done for murder. If anyone harmed a hair on my kid's head, then I'll tell you now, I would be able to. I couldn't murder a fly. Honest to God, I'm an emotional wreck or anything like that. If he hurt someone, I panic, or if I think about someone, I have a panic attack, or I really worry all the time about everything. I couldn't hurt a fly, but if I think that something bad could happen to my son, then that's all gone out the window. It's just a feeling, isn't it? To protect your own. It's terrible. It really is. So what are you going to do with the rest of your night, Lunchy? What are you up to, Liz? You're a nice owl, aren't you? I used to be a nice owl, you know. This would be the time I'd be waking up. Like I'd be starting to wanting to be on here all night and everything at one time. I think once I became a mum, oh, all the late nights I used to crave sleep. Now we'll go to bed. I'll go out like a light, and then I'll wake up about 2 in the morning. I'll get my phone and look for something else to watch, and then do the same again. That goes on through the nights. But I've been unsettled the past few nights, so I'm tired. I'm not sleeping properly. I'm going to lay in the tub, then go to sleep. I'm worn out. Oh, what time is it there, lunch? Oh, you're snuggling up with your grandbaby. How old is the baby, Pink? Boy or girl? Yeah, Liz. As I say, I love Grizzly True Crime. I always watch her. She's brilliant. 5:15. Oh yeah, you put your get in the tub, girl, and lie down with an audible book, whatever they're called, and just chill out. I'm gonna go to bed now. Oh, two, little boy. Oh, well, is it true what they say, and you as well, Liz and Lunchy? They say you're worse over your grandkids than you are over your own kids. JB, all right, love. Are you okay? Haven't seen you around for a while. Just saying hi and bye. Thanks for coming in and saying hi and bye, JB. Oh, yeah, I believe so. I believe the love for your grandkids is totally off the scales. That was the wedding, JB. Oh, Lunchy's next. She did she tell you about her dress? She funny. Do you? Two boys and a girl. Oh, do you know what? I always think of you as in your thirties, like early thirties. You know, I mean, I don't know how old you are. My cousin was grandparents at 32. She had a couple, but I always think of you in your early thirties. I don't even know how old you are. Oh, it was beautiful and the weather perfect. Oh, well, that's lovely. Oh, I bet you got some gorgeous pictures as well. Oh, Lunchy, you should see some of the things I've got. I've just laughed at them and just sent them back. I think you got a cheek. In your 40s. I always thought you were in early 30s. Oh, do you know what? I think when you're younger as well, you can enjoy them that bit more, can't you? Like now, I'd be like, oh God, can't even look after myself. Oh yeah, JB, come back soon, love. Take care. Anyway, I'm gonna cut off, guys. And thanks very much for coming in. I really do appreciate it. And we'll get to the next one tomorrow. Find out what's going on. But just shows you all the little things that you didn't know. Just show you. What was the first thing that I thought? So I didn't know that. Oh yeah, that we stayed away for 45 minutes before doing the check. So it looks like they were definitely being watched. What do you feel now after hearing what you've heard so far? Do you think they have done it or what? Don't worry, JP. Only one is local, the other two I don't see as much, but on video call when I can. Well, I bet you're on special occasions. It makes it more special, Pink. when you get to see them. I think someone stole that baby. I do, Lunchy. I do. Oh God, no doubt in my mind, Liz. They were fucking stupid, silly. See these type doctors and nurses ones. They all go out and they drink the little wine and stuff like that. These are all like this. It's just the working class families like us that stuck to our kids and don't go out till they're 21. Do you know what I mean? And you know, God help her, she's got to live with that mistake for the rest of her life. But I don't think they had hands in it. Even now, I'm reading this more so now. You know, I don't think, and it's hard sometimes, isn't it? Because you tar everyone with the same brush. You know, you watch people and they're crying for the children. Please bring them back. Bring my baby back, and it turns out it's been them. And you're like, oh my God, you can't get over it. But I really don't believe that they did it. I really don't believe they had anything to do with it. But for neglect alone, if that had been us, that had been it. No, Lizzo, you just wouldn't have. It wouldn't even come into your head. Throw them in a buggy, take them everywhere you go with you. Ends off. Ends off. Someone's definitely come and they've been getting watched. That kid's been getting watched. And that's what they do. Because I've watched these things on YouTube about these creeps. This one come on one time, you know, with his voice changed and his face all blacked out and whatever. And he was saying about how they do it. They watch and they call these kids dolls and they're on order. They're on order. Can you believe it? £10,000 for a child knocks me sick. Anyway, on that note, can't cope. I'm getting off. It's hard with school, Maggie, but that's it, girl, isn't it? Once the school starts and the kids have got to get to bed. Yeah, but you'll get there, girl, and they get older and then you'll be arshed. I know, the kids' clubs, that's another thing. Getting up, giving the breakfast in the kids' club until it's time for tea. Oh my God, that's the life, eh? That's the life. You just don't go there. Completely different than us. Completely. Anyway, good night and God bless everyone, and thanks very much for coming in again. And it'll probably be the same thing tomorrow, same time, I mean. And it'll probably go up half an hour early before the show. Speak to you soon. Thanks again. Good night and God bless. Appreciate you so much. Thank you. Love yous. Good night and God bless. Ta-ra. Bye.
Life is hard and life is wild. It can be sad or full of smiles. And every once in a while, you need a break from the mundane. So come back to see your friend, or she'll wonder where you've been. According to Leanie, she appreciates you and all that you do. You need her, but she needs you, and that's the beauty of according to Leanie. So thank you for your time. You are a friend of mine. I'll be happy to see you again on the next According to Leanie. Be good or be good at it until